switches that are right. Keep it safe and make sure there's no fire. Open to YouTube and look for Kids Fire Protection Answers.
Well, hi guys. Today we're going to talk about your annual inspection, where you see the fire sprinkler guys go into your unit to look at all the fire sprinklers every year. And I'm going to include alarm techs in this because they have to go in and look at things as well. They're looking at something totally different. They're looking for some of the same things, but on their equipment. So your inspector is going to come in and look at your fire sprinklers to make sure they're not painted, damaged, that there's nothing hanging from them, that there's nothing missing like that little trim ring, that escutcheon ring, or the plate on a concealed sprinkler. They're just making sure everything's the way it should be. They're also making sure that the correct type of fire sprinklers are installed in the correct positions, that they are the right temperature for the room. They're also checking to make sure that the installation company didn't put a standard response sprinkler next to a quick response sprinkler in the same room, because that's a big no-no. Also mixing temperatures. So like a 200 degree head with a 155 degree head in the same room. No. Now, there's one exception that I know of, and that's near a fireplace. A 200 degree head should be installed, and a 155 can be installed, but they have to be the same response. When it comes to the fire alarm techs, they're coming in to look for paint, damage, anything hanging from their equipment, anything missing, but they're also not looking at fire sprinklers. They're looking at the horn inside your unit, because when we start testing, inevitably somebody gets upset and disconnects their horn, and then that entire row doesn't work. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, because it's illegal. Not only can you get fined by your property manager or your apartment complex, but you could end up with a fine from fire marshal if, when they go to hook it back up, that whole circuit doesn't work anymore because you shorted it out. Yeah, it's going to cost you, and you could end up in jail because you're damaging or rendering a fire alarm inoperable. So don't do that. Don't touch those. Leave them alone. They're not supposed to be painted. They're not supposed to be damaged. They're not supposed to be removed. Like when your smoke detector goes off and you take it down because you burned toast. Don't do that. It's not good. There's multiple things that could happen. I'm not saying that that's exactly what's going to happen, but I am saying that these are some of the things that could happen if you remove your fire alarm system or part of it. So we have to do it every year because let's say one of your neighbors had their air conditioner serviced or replaced, and they had to solder in that closet, and they took something and put it over the fire sprinkler to make sure that they didn't set off the fire sprinkler while they're soldering in that closet because it's going to get really hot, and then they forgot it and left it. I run into that all the time. Controversially, I've also gone behind multiple different inspectors from multiple different companies, walked into a unit and found a paint cover from installation in an AC closet, because a lot of the guys don't know to check there. AC closets and laundry rooms, highly important to check. One inspector to another, check them, because that's where you're going to find your problems. You might find missing escutcheons or painted heads throughout the building, anywhere. But AC closets, laundry rooms, that's where you're going to find the trouble. That's where you're going to find covered heads, missing heads, where somebody broke something and then they just said, we'll just cap it off. And then they put the drywall back and nobody ever thought, oh yeah, there was a fire sprinkler there one time. Probably should put that back. Yeah. So that's where we find trouble, usually. Now, you're also going to have people that remove the horns and the units and put covers over them, like for a light switch or just that blank cover. Yeah, no. Can't do that. You've now disabled the fire alarm in your apartment, which is illegal. Now, is it going to go to the resident or is it going to go to the apartment complex and the maintenance guy that did that? Well, it all depends on who did it. Did the maintenance guy do it or did the tenant do it? Did the tenant before you do it? So deciding who actually is at fault is going to be rough, but it's illegal. If you see something, say something. If you're in an apartment and you're looking around, you're going, I don't see any of those in my apartment anywhere. It's probably not a good situation if you have a fire alarm system, because you're supposed to have them. I've seen multiple things hanging from fire sprinklers. I've seen potted plants. I've seen clothing. I've seen hats. I've seen disco balls. I've seen the little green air fresheners, the little pine trees. Yeah. I've seen all kinds of things hanging from fire sprinklers throughout my years of doing this. I think the most insane thing I've seen has to be somebody ran their surround sound speaker wire through the fire sprinklers down to their TV. Instead of hiding it, they wanted to see it in the fire sprinklers. Yeah. Why? You're in $1 million condo. You couldn't pay a guy to run that wire behind the drywall? Makes no sense to me. But that's what they wanted, and that's what they did until they got fined for it. And then they fixed it. Still looked horrible because they put this stuff, this plastic stuff along the corner of the wall and ran it that way. You're still going to see it. Why not hide it? You have money. Fix the problem. I don't have money. I like to hide the stuff behind my TV going down to the plug. And it goes through the wall and out this little brushy plate. And I plug it into my stuff. It's cheap. Go to Lowe's. Do it yourself. Trust me, you can. You can do it. I've seen some crazy things in my time. But that's why we have to go in to every unit as a fire sprinkler inspector, as an alarm inspector. We have to go in and make sure our stuff's not damaged, that our stuff's not painted, that our stuff's not missing, that our stuff's not disconnected, that our stuff is actually functional. I walked into a laundry room one time, opened the door and looked up, and the fire sprinkler had no glass bulb in it, and the plug was gone, and there's no water coming out. First thing I did was I got confused for a second. Then I walked out to the hallway, opened up the riser room door and looked at the gauge that said 65 PSI. And I walked back inside and I looked at the sprinkler. And I walked back outside and I looked at the gauge again and I said, Mr. Property Manager, we have a problem here. Clearly you have water on the system. The gauge is saying 65 PSI. Yet, if you go look in that laundry room, that head's activated and there's no water coming out. It was a building that was a year old. They had had a fire 2 months after opening in the apartment above it in the same room. The water put out the fire. What did we find? We found that during installation, the drywallers came through and put the drywall up at the riser before the riser was connected to the floor piping. So the entire first floor was never connected. It immediately got connected and fixed. But yeah, when they pulled the drywall down, test connection was still connected to it. These things happen. Are they supposed to happen? No. But they do. That's why we do these inspections. We want to make sure that when your system is needed, it's going to work. Whether it be fire sprinkler, fire alarm, fire extinguisher, kitchen suppression, whatever it is, we want it to work. That's why we do the inspection every year. No matter if we just did it a year ago and the same guys are there and nothing's changed, we still have to do it. We still have to walk through every unit and look at every fire sprinkler. Just in case. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
When you find your alarm sounds off in the night, don't make mistakes, get answers that are right. Keep it safe and make sure there's no fire. Open to YouTube and look for kids fire protection answers. Kids fire protection answers. Got questions, he's got answers that make sense. Don't wait the channel to open his kids fire protection